Okay, this is going to be a really quick lecture about a very specific kind of poem called the Greater Romantic Lyric. Literary scholar M.H. Abrams first comes up with the idea for this kind of poem and describing it in an article called Structure and Style in the Greater Romantic Lyric. Do not write that in your notes. I'm never going to ask you anything about M.H. Abrams, but I just want you to know that he's the person who came up with this idea. Sometimes these poems are also called romantic conversation poems, and that is something that's important to know. The Greater Romantic Lyric usually has three specific elements. It has a determinate speaker. This is a specific poetic persona. This is not just the generic, like, I. There's a real specific persona to the speaker. Second, it is in a specific, often outdoors, but it doesn't always have to be, setting. Again, a specific setting. It's not like, look, a tree is beautiful. It's like, look, this tree right here in this specific place. I'm going to talk about it. That tree is beautiful. And three, we overhear the speaker is talking either to himself or more often some other relatively silent human listener who could be present or sometimes is absent but is referred to. So, a determinate speaker, a specific setting, and a silent listener. Those are the three elements. We saw this today in Tintern Abbey. Those elements are really important, and you should have definitely written them down and make sure that you understood them. There are also stages of the Greater Romantic Lyric, and this is going to be really important, and so make sure that you understand these and write them down. The first stage is description. Remember that specific setting? The speaker begins by describing it. The second stage, thought. The description of the landscape inspires or sparks a process of either memory, remembering, thought, meditation, anticipation, thinking about the future, and or some kind of feeling or emotion. Afterthought comes insight. In the process of this meditation, the speaker can achieve an insight, face up to a tragic loss, come to a moral decision, or resolve an emotional problem. And the last stage, which is the most important one, is the return. We end the poem where we began, but the speaker has reached a higher level of understanding as a result of everything that happened in the second and third parts. So you'll come back to where you start, but the speaker is different, they're smarter, they have achieved this kind of epiphany, there's some kind of difference. So those are the four stages. It will help to go back to Tintern Abbey and think about how Tintern Abbey is the classic example of this poem. Think about how this worked in Tintern Abbey. Going through the elements. The speaker is the guy returning to this place that he used to visit all the time. The specific setting is the landscape surrounding Tintern Abbey. And if you want to talk about specific setting, go back and look at the title, which is unbelievably long and specific. And it's like a day and a year, and like you can find this place on a map. Specific setting. Not all of the settings will be this specific. Silent listener. Remember, like, shocker, Dorothy Wordsworth, who is his sister, or the sister has been there all the time and we didn't know it until like the very last stanza. She's the silent listener. Okay, so Tintern Abbey has all of the elements of a Greater Romantic Lyric. It also has all of the stages. That first opening stanza, we go through the description of the landscape of Tintern Abbey. Just what does it look like? Then we have thought. We have memory. right? The speaker remembers how he loved to think about Tintern Abbey when he lived in the city, and how thinking about the nature of Tintern Abbey and the landscape and his like vacations there and his time there sustained him when he was, in the big city and out of nature. Then we get insight. He realizes his relationship to nature has changed as he's gotten older, right? He doesn't have the ardor and zest that he talks about, like almost being like an animal, right? When he was a boy. But what he has lost in ardor, he has gained in philosophical and emotional insight. He understands humanity, he understands mortality, he talks about nature being his like moral guide and the anchor of his being. So he has gained this tremendous insight. The return. We end the poem as the speaker turns to his sister and he realizes that she's going to go through the same things he has, and he wants her to have the relationship with nature that he does. So, right, we end Tintern Abbey back where we started with the return. So make sure you understand how these stages work, because we will be talking about them for like the next 2 weeks. So that's the Greater Romantic Lyric. Thank you.